to be good for everyone who's involved. It has to be a clear understanding of what the expectations are.
News update and headlines on the 21st of May 2026. Mark Rubio is keys to in South Lebanon.
And Lebanon's health ministry says more than 3,000 people have been killed. Gabrielle Nadler has more.
Farah looks at the hometown she once knew. Yaroun, which sits on the southern border of many towns Lebanon says were destroyed by Israeli forces since the start of the Israel-Hezbollah war on March 2nd. The Israeli army said its attacks only target Hezbollah sites and operatives, but Farah says in Yaroun, nothing is left.
It's difficult. It's all gone. There's only memories left and some pictures that we're trying to collect so that our memories don't fail us, so that we can tell our children what Yaroun was like.
Around 6 kilometers north of Yaroun is the ancient hilltop town of 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦, which has become a Hezbollah stronghold. Before and after images from Lebanon's government-linked National Council for Scientific Research show the town to be largely in ruins. According to the organization, Israeli attacks since 2023 have destroyed more than 290,000 housing units, 61,000 of them since the start of the latest war. This has left many of Lebanon's more than 1 million people who have been displaced with little to return to.
It's a horrific humanitarian situation and horrific on every social level. It's a devastating blow to these people who had been displaced again and again, returning only to be displaced yet again.
A ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon went into effect on April 16th, but the destruction hasn't stopped, as Israel and Hezbollah continue to exchange fire.
Rubio said U.S. decision on Europe NATO alliance has to be good for involved. Rubio says supporters denounced court ruling that removed elected leader Turkey cut out opposition chief Ozer. News updates and headlines. At least 19 dead in Honduras palm farm massacre linked to gang violence.
Protest the court decision that ousted their party leader, 𝗔𝗡𝗔𝗦𝗦𝗦. He rejected the ruling, vowing to siege the building unless it was overturned.
Until it is once again the members of the Republican People's Party, not the judicial branches of the Justice and Development Party, who decide who will lead the Republican People's Party, I will remain in this building in my office. I'm not going anywhere.
The case had been thrown out in 2025, but was appealed by prosecutors, and a court ruled in their favor. It found that 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦 bought votes at the Leadership Congress where he was elected, and named his opponent, a former party chair in that race, as interim leader, drawing suspicion from party members.
We didn't expect this from him. He was our party leader in the past. They're doing everything they can to divide us. I'm very upset. I don't want it to be like this.
Many saw the decision as an attack on Turkish democracy.
I'm not a supporter of the Republican People's Party. I'm someone who stands for democracy. Today I came here to stand with them for the sake of democracy.
𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦 said the move was part of a coup that started with the 2025 arrest of Istanbul's mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, on charges that were widely seen as political. He was expected to run in Turkey's 2028 election, opposing current President Erdogan. Though if he is ineligible, sources point to 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦 as a possible candidate.
Sport World Cup 2026 moved from Riyadh to Paris due to Middle East war. UAE officials say 50-50 chance of US-Iran agreement on Strait of Hormuz. UAE officials urge Iran not to overestimate their card in negotiations. US House Republican cancel Iran war power.
I think everybody.
U.S. President Donald Trump told journalists he would speak with the president of Taiwan, a territory Beijing wants to bring back under its control. China has made clear that Taiwan remains a top priority.
China's opposition to any official exchanges between the US and China's Taiwan region and the US's arms sales to Taiwan is consistent, clear, and rock firm. China urges the US to exercise extra caution in handling the Taiwan question.
President Xi Jinping reportedly issued a similar warning last week during Trump's high-profile visit to Beijing. According to Chinese state media, Xi said that Beijing could come into conflict with Washington if it mishandles the question. After the trip, Trump suggested he could use a $14 billion arms sale as a negotiating chip with China. This would go against decades of policy preventing Washington from consulting Beijing on weapons deals with Taiwan, a top buyer of U.S. military equipment for decades. The U.S. Navy said Thursday the sale is now on pause to ensure the U.S. has sufficient munitions for Iran operations. President 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗦 said he would be happy to talk with the U.S. leader, while affirming his administration does not want to change the status quo.
Of the outbreak and in attempting to break the virus's chain.
Sequencing will enable us not only to understand the origin of the outbreak, but also to link and determine how they infected one another.
While scientists are hard at work in labs, responders are organizing a ground campaign against Ebola. In this warehouse, humanitarian teams are preparing to send medical supplies to the east of the country. We're currently preparing the shipment that's due to leave tomorrow. Another shipment will leave after that. We have 8 tons of equipment, medicines, and temporary infrastructure. So there you go. The boxes are full of masks, protection, and medicines. This equipment is expected to arrive in 𝗔𝗡𝗔𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗦 province, the epicenter of the new Ebola outbreak, within 24 hours.
Norway officials urge Iran not to overestimate their card in negotiation. The red show ends in 33 years, land with all stars farewell, corporate sign off after 11 seasons.
Yes, canceled it last year after Colbert mocked the broadcaster for settling a lawsuit with President Trump, calling it a big fat bribe. CBS has insisted its decision was purely financial. Peter O'Brien has the highlights from that final episode.
If you're just tuning into the Late Show, you missed a lot.
He'd promised Pope Leo as his final ever guest. He got the next best thing.
Hey, Steve, what about me?
11 seasons after he first said hello to the Late Show, Stephen Colbert sang his last goodbye alongside Paul McCartney. Last July, broadcaster CBS announced it was axing the show for financial reasons, but critics saw it as a move to silence political satire. It came as parent company Paramount was lobbying government to approve a merger, and after Colbert mocked Paramount for illegal arrangements with President Donald Trump.
While I was on vacation, my parent corporation, Paramount, paid Donald Trump a $16 million settlement over his 60-minute lawsuit. As someone who has always been a proud employee of this network, I'm offended. And I don't know if anything will ever repair my trust in this company. But just taking a stab at it, I'd say $16 million would help.
Fans outside the...
Trump said he is sending 50,000 more troops to Poland. NATO's Rutte welcomes Trump is sending troops to Poland. Polish Foreign Minister thanks Trump for U.S. troop announcement. Rubio to reaffirm U.S. support to NATO, Finnish Foreign Minister says. Poland will not lose any U.S. troops and many gain some, Defense Minister says. Rubio says U.S. decision on Europe troops are not punitive. News updates and headlines on the 21st of May 2020. 2026. On the 22nd of May 2026, Western media completely ignored Kiev's attack on school dormitory in Lugansk. Investigative committee crime case opened over Kiev. News updates and headlines.
One conjoins to the other, and it's going to make for a world depression period if this continues much longer, frankly.
Okay.
Ukraine drones at time of strike 86 children present in dormitory. Ukraine drones strike on dormitory of school. 4 killed and 39 wounded, including 14 children. News updates and headlines. Russia Emergency Service, 3 people rescued from rubble. News updates and headlines. Moscow terrorists strike children directly. West is silent. News updates and headline. Investigative committee for drone used in school attack. Investigative committee. Criminal case opened over Kiev strike. Moscow. Russian humanitarian rights commissioner appeal to UN and OSCE. Ukrainian drone strike dormitory in Lugansk Republic. At time of strike, 86 children was present in the dormitory. 4 killed and 39 wounded, including 14 children. News updates and headlines. On the 22nd of May 2026. News updates and headlines. News updates and headlines.
Ukraine. Well, this is a direct hit on a concentration of civilians. It's a school, and we see this repeatedly in Russia now. There seems to be this focus on Ukraine hitting these targets. They just don't care whether they're military or civilian. It's going to continue unless Russia really gives it a final blow and gets Ukraine to finally come around and basically sue for peace.
News update and headlines.
Depends upon, not that I can think of, but if the Ukrainians are determined to attack, they're going to attack, and there are means to try and stop these drones if they can locate them and jam them, or shoot them down. That's the only thing that's going to stop them. But the only way you're going to get the Ukrainians to stop firing is to take them out. Know where their positions are beforehand and take out those positions and neutralize them altogether.
Diplomacy. Rubio reaffirmed his support to NATO Poland will not lose any US troops and many gain, some defense ministry says. Rubio says US decision on Europe troops are not punitive. NATO alliance has to be good for all involved, Mark Rubio says. Donald Trump's disappointment with NATO over Iran must be addressed, Mark Rubio. News updates in headlines.
Des risques un peu forts et bien maîtrisés que des risques faibles et pas du tout maîtrisés comme on voit un peu partout.
So on top of the dilemma of radioactive waste and the risk of accidents, France's nuclear infrastructure is aging.
That's right, the fleet is getting old. Many of France's reactors are over 40 years old. Remember, they were built quickly in the 70s and 80s. So there's been a lot of hope and hype put into newer models of nuclear reactors like this one, the EPR, the European Pressurized Reactor that we talk a lot about in France. But they have been proven to be lengthy and expensive to put into place. So time and time again, there have been calls and sometimes political efforts even to scale back the share of nuclear within France's energy strategy and to focus on renewable energy like wind and solar. But people who are in favor of nuclear energy say that these renewable energy sources, well, the grid is unreliable and too dependent on the weather. So in a world where it seems like there is no energy solution, France, is betting big on nuclear and seems to keep doubling down on the fact that nuclear really is the backbone of its energy strategy.
2026 FIFA World Cup will set a record of the most boring sport event in history. Mexico launched at least a last-minute World Cup campaign to stop a homophobic chant. News updates and headlines. Cristiano Ronaldo ends Saudi Arabia trophy draw with 2 goals in Al Nassr's title win. Two-time NASCAR champ Kyle Busch dies at 41 years old after being hospitalized. EA Sports World Cup 2026 moved from Riyadh to Paris due to Middle East war. News updates and headlines. UAE official urge Iran not to overestimate their cards. News updates and headlines. US House Republican cancel Iran world power. Marco Rubio denounced NATO refusal to help on Iran ahead of alliance talk. Marco Rubio hopes Pakistan talk Iran will advance peace deal. Israel strikes killed 2 in South Lebanon. News updates and headlines. Lebanon says Israel strike killed 6, including 2 rescue and children. News updates and headlines. Humanitarian situation in Gaza still catastrophic more than 6 months. News updates and headlines. Donald Trump's massive triumph arch approved by all controlled board. News updates and headlines. Marco Rubio says sister of Cuban military conglomerate chief arrested in Cuba. Top UAE diplomat urge ending control and isolation of Cubans. News updates and headlines. At least 19 dead in Honduras palm farm massacre linked to gang violence. Trump backed push for deep-sea mining and lawful international regulator to AFP says. Trump says he's sending 5,000 more troops to Poland, stirring confusion about U.S. presence in Europe. Arthur Harari, French director, signatory.
Because when something isn't called out, it rots.
You can't be afraid of losing your job just because you voiced a shared concern.
Silence and fear, because it is clearly an expression of fear, are a very bad sign. A sign that democracy is being eroded.
Solange, this is all happening at a time when France is looking forward to elections next year. There are fears that the far right will come to power, and of course, larger questions of Vincent Bolloré's influence across cultural platforms in this country.
Yeah, and the French environmental site Vert, they did a graphic of what he owns or where he has stakes. And actually what pushed the collective Zappé Bolloré to write this opinion piece was his growing stake in UGC theaters, which would mean that he would have influence over films from start to finish. His empire is very, very vast. And it also came after some 200 writers at Grasset said that they would not work with the publishing house anymore after its editor-in-chief was sidelined due to a disagreement with Hachette, which Bolloré controls. So there are growing voices against what they say is a stranglehold.
Ebola, President ban Ebola treatment center in Congo. Kenyan to cut diesel price after protest against soaring energy cost. News update and headlines. Turkey revokes license for Istanbul Bilgi University seized by state in criminal probe effectively. India generates record power as demand surge in several heat wave. Samsung Union to start vote on tentative wage deal in South Korea. Taiwan, United States, U.S. Navy official says Taiwan arms sail on pause over Iran war. News updates and headlines. SpaceX postponed highly anticipated Starship launch. Mexico launches at last minute World Cup campaign to stop a homophobic chant. News update. Cristiano Ronaldo ends Saudi trophy draw with 2 goals in Al Nassr's win to clinch. Real Madrid coach Alvaro Arbeloa says we'll leave post. News updates and headlines. Two-time NASCAR champ Kyle Busch dies after at 41 years old. News update. UAE official says 50-50 chance of US-Iran agreement on Hormuz Strait. News update and headlines. News update and headlines. Marco Rubio denounced NATO refusal to help United States on Iran ahead of alliance talks. Marco Rubio hopes Pakistan talk with Iran will advance peace deal. News updates and headlines. US intel knows every inch of Iranian land. Inab strikes is fully intense. News updates and headlines.
Carolina, home of Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, is not too far from me. The largest military base installation in the United States. And there are schools. There are elementary schools and children's schools in close proximity to the Joint Special Operations Command headquarters, in close proximity to the 18th Airborne Corps proximity headquarters.
that does not make them legitimate targets. If in a total unrestricted war with Iran, where we were being struck in the United States, and they were to strike a military target, the United States would be in the exact same position where we have our schools and where our schools are located on our military bases. So part of that is also understanding proportionality, understanding the validity and the veracity of the intelligence to said target, and what the objective itself is. Was there anything potentially in this military annex that would have risen to the level of collateral damage assessment to conduct a strike with that school in proximity, to follow through with a second strike? Remember, this was not just one strike. And I say it does not. In my experience of 25 years and being on the receiving and sending end of strikes of this nature through Tomahawks and joint deployed air munitions and guided bomb units, this is a war crime.
Moscow, Ukrainian drone strike in Lugansk. Ukraine strike school dormitory in Lugansk Republic. Kids under rubble. At least 4 people killed after 4 Ukrainian drones hit Lugansk school. News update and headlines. Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin spokesperson.
Educational facility where children and young people are. A heinous crime. In general, the punishment should be borne by the Kiev regime. The main thing now is to dismantle the rubble and lift those who are under the wreckage.
Now,
Spencer Pratt calls Jesus Christ his political role model. Former The Hill star Spencer Pratt, who is now running for mayor of Los Angeles, says Jesus Christ is his political role model. He was then prodded on whether there are any modern politician he views as role model. He said, "No, I am not a politician." Pratt responded, "I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a fighter for the people." Two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch died Thursday afternoon, sending shockwaves through the racing world. Busch, who was 41 years old, was hospitalized Thursday due to uncaused but severe illness, according to a statement from his family. Busch won 63 races over 762 career starts, winning the championship in 2015 and 2019. May he rest in peace. Condolences to his family. News update and headlines. Joe Chestnut will still compete in annual Nathan's hot dog eating contest in July after judge approves out-of-state travel while he serves probation in Indiana. President Donald Trump did hold back in blasting birthright citizenship as disgrace ahead of an upcoming Supreme Court decision that could have major impact across the country. It's all up to a complete of people, and I hope they do what's right. Trump has repeatedly argued that the Constitution's guarantee of birthright citizenship was never intended to apply to children born in the United States to undocumented immigrants, and he has pushed to end the practice through executive action and court as part of his broader immigration agenda. News updates and headlines. Senator 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗦 Secretary Dufay faces question over DOT budget.
I'm not a supporter of the Republican People's Party. I'm someone who stands for democracy. Today I came here to stand with them for the sake of democracy.
𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦𝗦 said the judicial move was part of a coup that started with the 2025 arrest of Istanbul's mayor, 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗦, on charges that were widely seen as political. He was expected to run in Turkey's 2028 election, opposing current President Erdogan. Though if he is ineligible, sources point to Özel as a possible candidate.
Navy chief says Epic Fury mission takes munition prior U.S. pause $14 billion arms sale to Taiwan. Trump disappointment with NATO over Iran must be addressed, Mark Rubio says.
Few words.
I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody.
U.S. President Donald Trump told journalists he would speak with the president of Taiwan, a territory Beijing wants to bring back under its control. China has made clear that Taiwan remains a top priority.
China's opposition to any official exchanges between the U.S. and China's Taiwan region and the U.S.'s arms sales to Taiwan is consistent, clear, and rock firm. China urges the U.S. to exercise extra caution in handling the Taiwan question.
President Xi Jinping reportedly issued a similar warning last week during Trump's high-profile visit to Beijing. State media said that they would come into conflict with Washington if it mishandles the question. After the trip, Trump said he could use a $14 billion arms sale as a negotiating chip with China. This would go against decades of policy preventing Washington from consulting Beijing on weapons deals with Taiwan, a top buyer of U.S. military equipment for decades. The U.S. Navy said Thursday the sale is now on pause to ensure the U.S. has sufficient munitions for Iran operations. Taiwan President Lai Ching-te said he would be happy to talk with the U.S. leader, while affirming his administration does not want to change the status quo.
Taiwan is keenly aware of the increasingly severe threat from China, which is why we are increasing our defense budget. The enhancement of our capabilities and military procurement from the U.S. are vital for safeguarding Taiwan's security.
There has been nearly no direct communication between leaders of the U.S. and Taiwan since 1979, when Washington switched diplomatic recognition from Taipei to Beijing. This isn't the first time Trump broke with precedented U.S. policy on Taiwan. During his first term, Trump raised alarm when he spoke on the phone with Taiwan's then-president, Tsai Ing-wen.
Case of Ebola has already been reported in the city. With about 2 million residents, there's an urgent need to stop the virus from spreading. At this university, temperature checks and regular hand washing have become mandatory. Health measures must be enforced because there's no vaccine for this epidemic yet. So if we don't follow preventative measures, many people are at risk of dying. The fight against Ebola is also underway more than 2,600 kilometers away in this laboratory in the capital, Kinshasa. Every day, capsules like these arrive from the eastern part of the country. These ones contain samples that have tested positive for Ebola.
Here we have some samples. There are 6 positive cases.
For several weeks, researchers have been performing sequencing. This is a crucial step in tracing the origin of the outbreak and in attempting to break the virus's chain of transmission.
Sequencing will enable us not only to understand the origin of the outbreak, but also to link the different patients and determine how they infected one another.
While scientists are hard at work in labs, responders are organizing a ground campaign against Ebola.
3 people are dead and nearly 20 first responders end up hospitalized after walking into what police says have been an overdose in New Mexico. Authorities say responders in Montana started experiencing nausea and dizziness after exposure to an unidentified substance inside the home. If you are a food star, do not walk away from this press conference run. Dr. 𝗔𝗡𝗔𝗦𝗦 delivered a brand warning after officials announced 15 arrests tied to nearly $19 million in illegal COVID-era healthcare fraud. Because COVID-19 caused a lack of oversight and because agencies like mine were regarded in the ability to provide program integrity, we have allowed this monstrous outrageous increase in spending, which does not benefit anybody, to increase.
And so because COVID caused a lack of oversight and because agencies like mine were gutted in their ability to provide program integrity, we have allowed this monstrous, outrageous increase in spending, which does not benefit anybody, to increase. The 15 arrests today, getting $90 million, is a very important symbol because it's a shot across the bow. And we've all going to say this in our different ways, but I'm telling you, if you're a fraudster, do not walk away from this press conference. Run. Because we are coming after you. We have lots of weapons to be able to use in order to accomplish that. And so...
Assistant A.J. McDonald revealed heartbreaking consequences of the rampant medical fraud in Minnesota.
One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community Supports Medicaid program. This program is designed to help individuals with disabilities live independently. One patient was supposed to be receiving 24-hour care through this program, but he was actually being serviced by a fraudster and received no services. This patient was later found dead. One defendant is charged with defrauding the Integrated Community.
President Donald Trump gives Iran one of the hardest warnings yet as tensions grow between the United States and the Islamic Republic. We are going to either make sure they don't have nuclear weapons, or we are going to have to do something very drastic.
We have total control of the Strait of Hormuz, as you know, with our blockade. The blockade's been 100% effective. Nobody's been able to get through us like a steel wall. It's our Navy. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. We wiped out their Navy. We not wiped out their air. I think they're down to about, I would say we knocked out 85% of their missile capacity. It's very hard for them now to build missiles, to build drones. We have great drone technology, anti-drone technology now that, frankly, we didn't have even 2 months ago. We have unbelievable drone technology, both for making them and also for knocking them down. But look, we're going to either make sure they don't have a nuclear weapon, or we're going to have to do something very drastic. We have total control of the Strait of Hormuz, as you know, with our blockade. The blockade's been 100% effective. Nobody's been able to get through. It's like a steel wall. It's our Navy. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. We wiped out their Navy. We not wiped out their air. I think they're down to about, I would say we knocked out 85% of their missile capacity. It's very hard for them now to build missiles, to build drones. We have great drone technology, anti-drone technology now that, frankly, we didn't have even 2 months ago. We have unbelievable drone technology, both for making them and also for knocking them down. But look, we're going to either make sure they don't have a nuclear weapon, or we're going to have to do something very drastic.
As the ceasefire clock winds down, Iran's highly enriched uranium is back at the center of the global standoff. The US fears the material could eventually be used for nuclear weapons after decades of development inside Iran, making it one of the biggest sticking points in ongoing negotiations. President Trump says he is willing to wait a few more days for Tehran to change course before ending the ceasefire and sending the US back into combat.
So today Reuters reported that Iran's foreign minister, Mojtaba Khamenei, is ordering a directive not to export Iran's highly enriched uranium. The White House is pushing back on that report, saying that it's not true. It comes as Iran's foreign ministry says they are reviewing a new U.S. proposal, and Pakistan sent their interior minister to Tehran to see if he could help get a deal across the finish line. The region remains on high alert for the possibility that the war resumes in the days ahead. And
President Trump takes a victory lap after his anti-crime policy turned DC into a vibrant city again, and getting confirmation from CEO of Kroger about how it helped his business. Trump says, "Do you have a store in Washington? You see a big difference?" Kroger CEO says, "We do." Trump, "Where?" He said, "The right thing. That would have been the end of Kroger, right?"
We have a vibrant city again. People are going out. I have a lot of people in the White House. Every time I see somebody, they thank me. And I know immediately what. They thank me for making the city safe. They walk to work now. Before that, they'd take Uber or something, and they felt unsafe even in Uber. You know, we moved over 5,000 people out of the city, career criminals that came in through the open borders and other reasons. And we moved over 5,000. And an interesting statistic is that 2% of the population creates 91% of the crime. And the reason I like that is that you can handle 2% of the population. Mr. Kroger, I see, do you have stores in Washington? You see a big difference? We do. Boy, you said the right thing. That would have been the end of Kroger. We have a vibrant city again. People are going out. I have a lot of people in the White House. Every time I see somebody, they thank me. And I know immediately what. They thank me for making the city safe. They walk to work now. Before that, they'd take Uber or something, and they felt unsafe even in Uber. You know, we moved over 5,000 people out of the city, career criminals that came in through the open borders and other reasons. And we moved over 5,000. And an interesting statistic is that 2% of the population creates 91% of the crime.
And the reason I like that is that you can handle 2% of the population. Mr. Kroger, I see, do you have sources?
U.S. Navy officials say Taiwan arms are on course. News update and headlines. 65% of voters say the U.S. is winning the war in Iran, according to the latest Fox News poll. This came as Iran's foreign ministry is reviewing the most recent U.S. peace proposal while Pakistan mediator visit Tehran to push for a deal. While the administration shows no sign of slowing down its focus on military action in the Middle East, Americans are growing increasingly worried about gas price and the overall cost of living. Real Madrid coach Álvaro Abreu said he will leave post. News update and headlines. News updates and headlines on the 22nd of May 2026. Republican Thomas Massie loses his GOP primary in Kentucky to Ed Guerin, NBC News project in another victory for President Trump as he targets dissenters in his party. News updates and headlines. Kenya's President William Rutte says the government will cut diesel price to cease pressure on consumers after protests erupted over soaring energy costs linked to U.S.-Israel war in Iran. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk says President Donald Trump's decision to deploy troops to Poland is good news for Poland and the United States. An Ebola victim has been buried by health worker in hazmat suit amid tension between family and local authorities in the DR Congo over funeral restrictions. U.S. deploys 5,000 troops to Poland. Vice President 𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗦 says Turkey will continue implementing its economic program despite market turmoil following a court decision to overturn 223 leadership election over the main opposition Republican People's Party (CHP). Hungary Foreign Minister Anita Orban says Budapest aims to secure the release of all $10.4 billion suspended UAE Recovery Fund and expressed hope the effort would succeed. Al Jazeera English. More than 2,000 people gathered for Islamic funeral prayer in San Diego for 3 men killed while confronting gunmen at city's largest mosque. Community members said the victims' action helped save lives during the assault. Al Jazeera English. NATO Chief Mark Rutte had welcomed US President Donald Trump's announcement to deploy 5,000 troops to Poland. News updates and headlines. Irish activist Katrina Graham, who was filmed being dragged by her hair and forced by Israeli forces recounter the violent interception of Gaza-bound aid flottile in interview with Al Jazeera after being deported to Istanbul.
Now let's speak to Katrina Graham, who we just saw in that report. She was pushed down by Israeli forces as Ben Gvir walked by, and she joins us now from Istanbul. Istanbul's where you've just landed after being literally thrown out of Israel. So just walk us through your first contact with the Israeli security forces to your last.
So in this kidnapping, so it was the second kidnapping that I've gone through in this flotilla mission. In this kidnapping, there were words of confirmation of interception ongoing from about 10:30 in the morning, and our boat was intercepted about 3 hours later. Normally in these proceedings, in previous missions that I've been part of, they will board, they will look for the captain, but it will all be, so long as nobody escalates, which we never do, we make sure that everything is smooth and it is relatively low violence. There might be some verbal abuse, some psychological abuse, but no signs of real physical abuse. Whereas this time, immediately, they came in with rubber bullets. They singled out one of the others on the boat, put him lying down, cable tied behind the back, and blindfolded him, and he ended up nearly going in the water. And from that moment on, it was very clear that they were extremely ready to escalate with violence at every step of the way throughout the detention process.
Malaysia ordered TikTok to address defamatory content about King. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in Nuuk as the US opened a new consulate in Greenland's capital, rejecting President Donald Trump's renewal interest in the semi-autonomous Danish territory and chanting "No means no." US, Japan, Australia, and India will hold a Quad Foreign Ministry meeting in New Delhi on 26th of May. Japan says US Secretary of State Mark Rubio and other top diplomats are expected to attend, Reuters report. News update and headlines. Football, Trent has been left out of England World Cup squad by Thomas Tuchel. Jane Spencer has been selected ahead of Real Madrid right back. News update and headlines. President William Rutte orders another 10 kS reduction in diesel price, with the new Nairobi pump price dropping to 222.92 kH from June 14th. Uganda demands $4.3 million from Kenya over UPDF soldier geologist killed in Turkana attack. The Ugandan government has demanded a compensation package of $4.3 million from Kenya following the killing of Ugandan geologist and UPDF soldier by suspected Turkana warrior in March 2022. Age Radio reports. News updates and headlines. Football, Marcus Rashford has been called up to represent the England national team at the FIFA World Cup 2026. President Ruto, the first 100,000 President Ruto, the first 100,000 electric vehicle to be imported into Kenya, whether for public service or private use, will be duty-free. News updates and headlines. President Rutte calls for patience as government address global fuel crisis. The government is taking decisive measures to cushion Kenyans from high-priced fuel caused by conflict in the Middle East, President William Samuel Ruto has said. Speaking after a consultative meeting with transport stakeholders at State House, Mombasa on Friday, the president directed that diesel price be reduced in June. News updates and headlines on the 22nd of May 2026. The Crusade close out an absolute classic. 36-32 in rugby. News updates and headlines. England full swat for the FIFA World Cup 2026. Goalkeepers Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson and James Trafford. Defenders Reece James, Tino Livramento, Mark Gay, Ezri Konsa, John Stones, Jair Kwanzaa, Nico O'Reilly, Dan Burn, Jed Spence. Midfielder Declan Rice, Elliot Henderson, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Morgan Rogers, Kobe Mainoo. Forwards Harry Kane, Ivan Toney, Oli Watkins, Bukayo Saka, Noni Madueke, Marcus Rashford, Anthony Gordon, and Eberechi Eze.
The president views
Marco Rubio,
and their response to our operations in the Middle East. They're well documented. That will have to be addressed. They won't be solved or addressed today. That's something for the leaders level to discuss. But in the end, like any alliance, it has to be good for everyone who's involved. There has to be a clear understanding of what the expectations are.
For more on the NATO gathering of
NATO chief Marco Rubio welcomes move but pushes for European autonomy. Trump sent 5,000 troops to Poland. Mexico launches a last-minute World Cup campaign. Cristiano Ronaldo ends Saudi Arabia draw with 2 goals to clinch league title. Real Madrid coach Alvaro Arbeloa says he will leave. 2 times NASCAR champ Kyle Busch dies at 41 years old after being hospitalized with a severe illness. Esports World Cup 2026 moved from Riyadh to Paris due to Middle East war. UAE official says 50-50 chance of US-Iran agreement on Strait of Hormuz. UAE official urge Iran not to overestimate their cards in negotiations. US House of Republicans cans Iran world power vote. Marco Rubio denounced NATO refusal to help Iran ahead of alliance talks. Marco Rubio hopes Pakistan talks with Iran will advance peace deal. Israel strikes kills 2 in South Lebanon, military reports. Lebanon says Israel strikes killed 6 including 2 rescuers and a children. Humanitarian situation in Gaza still catastrophic more than 6 months after the United States endorsed peace plan. News update and headlines on 22nd of May 2026. Donald Trump's massive triumphal arch approved by R.I.P. controlled board. Marco Rubio says sister of Cuban military conglomerate chief arrested in Cuba. Top UAE diplomat urge ending control and isolation of Cubans. At least 19 deaths in Honduras palm farm massacre linked to gang violence. Trump backed push for deep sea mining unlawful, international regulator to R.I.P says. Trump says he is sending 30,000 more troops to Poland, stirring confusion about U.S. presence in Europe. NATO's Mark Rutte welcomes Trump's sending troops to Poland. Poland Foreign Minister thanks Trump for sending U.S. troops in Poland. Rubio reaffirmed U.S. support to NATO, Foreign Minister of Finland announced. Poland will not lose any U.S. troops and may gain some, Defense Minister says. Rubio says U.S. decision on Europe troops are not punitive. NATO alliance has been good for all involved, Marco Rubio says. Trump is disappointed with NATO over Iran and must be. Trump's disappointment over Iran must be negotiated. Kremlin accused Ukraine of monstrous crime after deadly drone strikes on Lugansk region. Ebola residents ban Ebola treatment center in Congo as anger grows over the outbreak. Beren Hospital says U.S. Ebola patient's family tested negative. Kenya to cut diesel price after protest against soaring energy costs. This was some of news updates today on 22nd of May 2026. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.